Hey guys, welcome to episode 2 of the Laced Up podcast featuring TheFlightMike, GetLikeCoop, and the other Mike, aka Mike Korzemba. Really quickly, guys.
I'm not the other Mike. But
wait, hold on. Just accept your role, bro. For this episode, at least.
No.
All right. Really quickly, before we get to, we'll discuss that later. Really quickly, before we get to the entire podcast, just want to let you guys know, man, we're giving away a next-gen console, either a PlayStation 5 or an Xbox Series X, to a subscriber that turns on our notifications for this channel. So literally just subscribe, hit that notification bell. So far, we've only have 8,500 people that subscribed and hit that notification bell for that channel. That's probably the best odds you'll get on YouTube to potentially win a PlayStation 5 or an Xbox Series X. Now that we got all that out of the way, gentlemen,
you know what, guys? If you win and you've got 2K, I'll play Park with you. I'll play a few games of Park. That's easy. If you want to. Someone wants to carry. I haven't played 2K in a while, but I'm down.
Gentlemen, we have a lot to talk about. Paul Pierce, you guys have Instagram. Coop, you have Instagram. Mike, you have Instagram. I have Instagram. There are things you post on Instagram, you know, maybe some NBA news, maybe some basketball discussion, maybe a nice little personal picture of you and your buddies. And then there is stuff that you should never, ever post onto your Instagram story, especially if you happen to be hired by ESPN, which is also owned by the biggest evil content empire in our society, Disney. So Paul Pierce went on Instagram Live and posted a video of him turning up with some exotic dancers. Did you guys see it?
Guys, it was a boys' night, all right? You know, I mean, I don't even think Paul invited those girls. They just came. All right? I'm not blaming them.
No, Mike, what do you think? What do you think, FlightMike? FlightMike, what do you think about the situation?
That was such an unexpected reaction. You guys didn't even talk.
I didn't know where to
honestly,
go
I'm not
with
gonna lie. I think maybe like both of you thought, you know what? It was for the boys. Maybe ESPN needs to chill.
It was. I mean, like,
I'm
look.
on FlightMike. FlightMike.
I mean, look. There was like a couple of things that popped into my head when I saw it. One was this thing planned? Because Paul Pierce, I understand he has some weird takes, saying that he had a better career than Dwayne Wade, or, you know, he has some out there takes. But
they're
he's
horrible
not
takes. I wouldn't say weird. Let's say horrible.
Yeah, but he's not a stupid guy. Like, I'm sure he understands, hey, if I post myself like getting drunk with a bunch of exotic dancers at like 1 a.m. for 300 of my followers to see on an Instagram Live, he would know that he's getting fired.
All right, for one, I think he thought he was going to get more than 300 viewers. I just want to get that out the way right now.
Right now I'm on Twitter. I searched Paul Pierce, and that's the number one. Paul Pierce really threw it all away for 315 live viewers.
Look, I would be happy with 300 live viewers, but, you know, I'm not Paul Pierce, and I didn't do what he did, so.
Well, you know what? One day, guys, in the future of this podcast, when we start going lives, when we go live on whatever platform, we'll have more than 300 viewers. I believe in that, Coop. So one day, and you know what? When that day happens, we're taking an advantage, and we're one-upping Paul Pierce.
Whoa!
We're gonna have
French now.
We're gonna have 20. Girl, I'm just kidding. My fiance is in the room right next door.
Yeah.
Oh, you're getting me excited here, bro.
No.
FlightMike will have 20.
Yeah, you know what? We'll ship them over to FlightMike. All right. We've got FlightMike and we've got Cuffed Mike. All right.
Hey, so here's the thing. There's no way he did it. Like, there's no way he did it without thinking he's getting fired, right? There's a part of me that thinks like this was done on purpose. He wanted ESPN to fire him. Do you guys think that?
But why? Why would he want ESPN to fire him? Like, where are you going from ESPN? That's like the pinnacle of sports talk.
ESPN's falling off. A lot of people don't acknowledge how limiting ESPN is. Before,
okay,
like,
but who's bigger than ESPN? Like, what gig do you have to go to that's like possibly bigger than ESPN?
Well,
Guys, by the way, we are also on Apple and Spotify. The links to the Lace Up podcast for Apple and Spotify will be down below in the description. Please on Apple subscribe and give us a 5-star review if you think we deserve it.
I'd imagine that Paul Pierce is sitting in his chair and he's watching JJ Redick, he's watching Steven Jackson, he's watching Matt Barnes. Hell, he's watching Laced Up. I mean, there's so much more money that he could make in podcasting and creating his own sports show than being with ESPN. And ESPN's extremely limiting.
We can only take so much competition, honestly. We're already
If
new.
ESPN calls me tomorrow, I'll miss you guys, man.
But you're different than Paul Pierce. We're talking about a former NBA champion and a Boston Celtics legend. Most basketball fans know who Paul Pierce is, whether you grew up watching him or not.
Fuck no. Look, I don't know about you guys, but if I'm Paul Pierce, personally, I mean, I don't know the details of his contract and all that shit, but
he was making 1.5 mil. We know that.
I mean, that's a lot. Well, that's a good bit.
Here's my.
I mean, I don't know. It's hard to imagine it's a money thing, honestly. But if it is,
you have to imagine that Paul Pierce, I'm guessing, wouldn't need 1.5 million. Like, what's this man made throughout his career? As long as he can throw it all away.
Contracts now are a lot different, and basketball players are notoriously bad with money.
But I mean, I'm sure. I would hope he would still have money, but regardless,
I think his net worth was like 70 million or something. But yeah, regardless.
No way.
If I'm an NBA player, a retired one, I'm not
$200 million in his career.
Yeah,
let's throw away the podcast idea. Let's throw away the podcast idea. He's not starting the fucking podcast.
All right, see, here's the difference. Here's the difference with me. Here's the difference. There are tiers to this, okay? So I agree with the money. A lot of times it doesn't come into play as much because obviously they want to get paid. They want to get paid what they're worth. Paul Pierce isn't going to sit around for like $200K to do something. He wants that $1.5 million figure. However, with a guy like Paul Pierce, NBA All-Star, again, made $200 million in his career. It's different than a guy like Richard Jefferson, who didn't make as much and is doing his podcast, doing his thing, or some lesser guys who get into coaching and that money matters a little more to them. Paul Pierce, I think personally, again, I'm not fully confident about Paul Pierce's financial situation, but I think it's the same thing kind of as most high profile athletes when they go into media, which is you like keeping your name out there. You like keeping your name relevant. If you're an NBA player that just doesn't take any kind of job, then you become completely irrelevant. All kinds of sponsorships really kind of go away, all kinds of brands. So, I mean, that's what I would imagine Paul Pierce is doing. I also think that with that in mind, ESPN's a great place to be with putting your face out there, but maybe he just got too annoyed with the constraints that an ESPN job has. You can't be doing nearly anything like this. You have to be, like Mike was talking about before, ESPN is a huge Disney conglomerate. You have to be a model employee if you're going to work there. And maybe he did just get tired of that. And it looks like, there's been a lot of rumors about Barstool picking him up and stuff. So, I mean, we'll see where he goes. Yeah. I don't know if it's going to be a podcast.
I don't know that you have to be a model employee, but obviously you can't just be throwing your business out there and stuff. And if that's the life Paul Pierce wants to live, then I guess that's the life.
I'm sure you could do more though at a company like Barstool.
Yeah, for sure.
You could at ESPN.
Even at Fox Sports, do you know how many videos Shannon Sharp posts of himself, with a bottle of Hennessy and a cigar, really playing into his personality? He may have felt fairly limited at ESPN, maybe, and that makes a lot of sense. And you look at what Shannon Sharp has the freedom to do at Fox Sports as well. He has a podcast as well, so I think in terms of his career, Mike is kind of correct that ESPN's just not Paul Pierce's gig currently. There's not much upside for him to be there. Maybe if he earned a little less, but not now.
I don't know if he did it so he could pose with a bottle of Hennessy on Fox Sports either, but his videos, I don't know, the way he's acting kind of struck me as more of a cry for help. Hopefully it's not. Hopefully everything is good in the Paul Pierce world. But, with a lot of these high profile guys, stuff like that, sometimes gets swept under the rug for a greater plan. Hopefully he does know what he's doing, but I'm just not entirely sure, you know.
You make a very
I
interesting
agree with
point that I think we neglected this so far. Did you guys see his apology video? The man had sunglasses on. Dude, I live in California. I could tell when someone's stoned out of their mind, and he's just like laughing like
Wait,
like a Wiz Khalifa lie.
Yeah.
Mike lives in California, and so that makes him the only person who can tell when someone's stoned.
Yeah.
Congrats!
You saw
man.
that, right?
Wait,
I didn't want to
you
say
live in
anything.
California, and that you have this radar for weed?
Yeah, most
Bro,
definitely.
wait, how many years do I have to live there? That sounds like a pretty useful skill.
I mean, when did you guys legalize it? Where you guys are from?
We just
did you
legalized.
guys?
New Jersey, baby.
Oh, you just legalized it. Okay, so
Yo, you saw how he was ready to jump the
yeah, right. He's
that?
like,
No,
he's
just,
pulling
like,
out
easy
bills.
to
He's
tell.
Like, all right,
Like-
you know what? March
like,
3rd, 2020, legalization process was started.
no, it's just like you like watch him and he's giving this like Wiz Khalifa like laugh, saying, "Oh my God, I don't really care that I got fired," or "Ha ha ha." Like,
Yeah,
I don't know.
What I think is funny when this kind of stuff happens is that basically the athlete, in this case, Paul Pierce, or the personality, kind of loses control of the story, and sometimes it can turn against them, and that's when they'll be like, yo, chill guys, hit the brakes, this isn't what happened. But Paul Pierce, I feel like the public perception has kind of been like LOL, this is crazy, like Paul Pierce is out here wilding. And then people, he's tweeting, I can't lose, even when I lose I'm winning, and people are like, yo, Paul Pierce is pulling this savvy thing where he's getting out of his ESPN contract, he's going to Barstool, he's doing everything. Maybe Paul Pierce really is just, it's a cry for help. Maybe this really is just like, oh, Paul Pierce isn't in the best headspace, but we wouldn't know that because of just the way that people took it. So I guess we'll see.
Winning sounds very very Charlie Sheen-esque.
Kawhi Leonard needs to be on the Golden State Warriors.
Whoa.
The Warriors are wasting Stephen Curry's career.
Guys,
Whoa.
guys, I'm in Boston right now, not in New Jersey. Just I haven't said it. Want you guys to know. Currently in a temporary setup. Guys,
right.
Some Boston people are as angry as they're portrayed on television.
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily blame them. One of their
Boston
teams
is
kind of like
a very nice city, honestly. It's very, very nice.
It's a beautiful city. It's just their teams have been disappointing over the past few years.
I'm going to the
once
game
Tom
tomorrow,
Brady left.
baby. I'm seeing Celtics versus Knicks.
They have
this.
fans in the stands.
Yeah, they do. But get this, all right? I live in New Jersey. I'm about an hour away from Philadelphia, about an hour away from New York. The only two teams I ever watch play, the only two teams I ever go to their games are the Sixers and the Knicks. The Celtics go to Boston. I'm like, okay, let's watch a game. 2 games going this week. Sixers tonight, Knicks tomorrow. Those were my options. I was like, are you kidding me? Yeah, so I am in Boston right now. I'm going to be seeing the Knicks play. And I know Knicks fans, we were just talking about, I said Kawhi Leonard to Golden State. I know Knicks fans want a guy like Kawhi, but what do you guys think about Kawhi Leonard's impending free agency, upcoming free agency? I personally, I don't know why I'm attaching myself to this train, but I'm attaching myself to the Kawhi Leonard Golden State Warriors train. That is where I'm positioning myself. I want to see it.
Coop, do you have a take?
Not me. I'm attaching myself to Kawhi to either, let me think, maybe like Miami or the Pelicans.
The Pelican? All right. Well, okay. Then
situations.
of course, I also am on the
No,
Bulls.
no,
The Bulls train is number one.
No, stop. No, I know what you're gonna say. I know what you're gonna say. Stop. I know what you're gonna say. Stop. The Bulls don't even have cap space. Stop.
Bro, we'll
All
get
Mike,
cap
what were you
space.
gonna say?
So here's the thing. I love Mike Korzemba's take that Kawhi Leonard is probably going to go to the Golden State Warriors, because if you remember dating all the way back to when he was with the San Antonio Spurs and he had that weird rift with Greg Popovich, the entire time he said he wanted to go back home. Home for him is, I think, San Diego, because he went to SDSU, San Diego State University. So technically being in Golden State would have him at home. I think originally his plan was to go and play for the Clippers for the rest of his career and be the face of the Clippers. And I think the Clippers completely botched that opportunity when they decided to ink Paul George to a huge contract extension, which I think wasn't necessarily the greatest move because, look, if you're a team like the Bucks, I get it. You know, they just signed Drew Holiday to a 4-year, $160 million extension because they struggle with getting good all-star caliber players. But you're the Clippers. You're a destination now. There's
who else
players
are they
that
getting?
will want to come and play with you.
Yeah, I
Who
don't
else
know
are
if the
they
Clippers
getting,
are a
though?
destination. I don't know about that one.
I mean,
If you
Kawhi
make that
Leonard made
statement,
him
you
a
got to have
destination.
another name who they get.
Yeah,
That name doesn't exist.
I mean, Kawhi, I'm sure someone will go to the Clippers to play with Kawhi Leonard if Paul George left.
I don't think
I'm
so.
You
I
don't think so?
honestly, yeah, I don't
No.
think so. I honestly think
I don't know about that one.
you know what? I'm gonna go with some hot takes here. I'm gonna say I don't think the Clippers necessarily did anything fully wrong. I think they got their team. They got Kawhi. They got Paul George. They did what they had to do. They signed Paul George. They're trying to make Kawhi happy. I think that just other teams, as all this was happening, I think other teams made better moves, and the NBA as a whole, just the talent level rose, and the Clippers now are kind of looking around like, oh my God, how did all of this happen?
Yeah.
What the, you know?
Let's step outside the realm of being basketball fans, and I'd say more or less all of us got to the position we're in today because we're fairly savvy businessmen. Mike Korzemba, I know you're a big Top Shot guy. Coop and I, we talk about our investments all the time. So let's imagine that we're general managers right now, right? You're the general manager of the Clippers, and your team just blew a 3-1 series lead against the Denver Nuggets. And I've went into like details about a potential rift Doc Rivers could have had with Paul George because of some personal issues they had in the past regarding Doc Rivers' daughter dating Paul George. Let's just throw that out of the window as well. Okay. The Clippers end up blowing a 3-1 series lead against the Denver Nuggets. Paul George has the worst series of his entire career, and the entire team is in shambles at this point. There's rumors coming out. I don't know if you guys remember. There's rumors coming out about how the entire team didn't like Paul George. Paul George may have pointed the blame finger at Doc Rivers. But
It was
Clippers
both of them. No, they didn't like both of them. It was both of them.
They didn't like both of them. Okay, so they fire Doc Rivers. They get rid of Montrezl Harrell, who also didn't necessarily agree with Paul George. They had some arguments in the middle of that playoff.
If I had to
run as
guess,
well.
I would say it was Harrell and Lou Williams who were the most annoyed. That's what I would guess. That it was Montrez.
I mean,
and Lou Williams were the most annoyed, which I don't blame them for at all. I don't blame them for it at all.
Yeah,
that's not how you build. They were trying to build the championship team like the 2004 route, where you could still have all that diva stuff. I feel like that is a thing of the past at this point. Like guys just are not willing to put up with it, and yeah, they had things like Kawhi was showing up like very late, like an hour late to plane rides, and all the guys on the team had to wait for him, and then Kawhi's just showing up, not really apologizing, and all the other guys are like, okay, if this was me, the plane would be gone. I'd have to go get my own plane ride. So I could see why it took a toll. But wait, continue your point.
So after all of that, you end up telling Lou Williams and Montrezl Harrell. Bear in mind, Lou Williams took a pay cut to stay with the Los Angeles Clippers. The reason why the Los Angeles Clippers were viewed as a destination prior to the arrival of Paul George and Kawhi Leonard was because the supporting cast was freaking awesome. If you remember, like they took the Golden State Warriors to, let me fact check myself. That first round series, I don't remember if it was 6 games or 7 games.
Six.
6 games.
Yeah, they were a team that was a superstar away. They got 2, and
so then you have Kawhi Leonard and Paul George coming through. It clearly didn't work out the very first year, and sure, you can. Though. It should have. On paper, it did. So what you do is you fire Doc Rivers. You don't bring back Montrezl Harrell. You ship Lou Williams, who says he's going to retire if he leaves, which he didn't. Thank you, Lou. To Atlanta. You bring in Rajon Rondo. And at this point, you have to look at Kawhi Leonard and think, okay, clearly we've hit our ceiling. There's nowhere to go here. And there's no way this team could improve, because they're committed to Paul George for the next 4 years. So pretty much the Clippers chose Paul George over Kawhi Leonard just so they could have a star. Kawhi Leonard could be out of the door this summer, and I'm sure there's no reason for him to stay if the Clippers don't make it, even if they don't make a deep playoff run. At the same time, to play devil's advocate to myself, you can make the argument that Kawhi Leonard's content. He's already won multiple championships with the San Antonio Spurs and Toronto Raptors.
For one, it doesn't help that Shea is better than Paul George right now.
Yeah, see, that's the problem. That is what I will say the problem is. Like, if we have to take a step back further, it's the trade is what screwed them, and it's what's gonna really screw the Clippers if Kawhi decides to leave.
Yeah.
However,
They
you
also
don't
gave
get
up a lot of
Kawhi.
depth
You
in
don't
that
get
trade.
Kawhi if you don't make that trade. So that's the discussion. Like, you could say, what if they didn't give up Shea and Gallo and all those picks and everything? You kept those. You kept the asset. Or you did whatever, but they don't get Kawhi if they don't make that trade. So that's the problem. And I guess that ended up becoming one of those trades that it gave away so many assets. It gave away all those picks are so valuable. Like, that's the thing. When that trade happened, we all were like, oh my God, like, look at all these picks. Look at what that's going to mean in the future if like things blow up. But what you don't think about is like the next year when suddenly the Clippers are trying to trade for bigger, guys that are willing to be traded come trade deadline or everything, and they don't have first round picks to give up while other teams do. So that trade screwed them.
The Luke Kennard contract also doesn't help. I mean,
yeah,
but, I get it. They're in a tough spot now. Not many assets. No picks. Shea's better than Kawhi. Shea's better than Paul George. It's tough, man.
So I want to bring up this rumor I'm reading, and we always make fun of this template, so let's make sure that we preface this. This is just a rumor.
Wait, can I also say one final thing?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, my last final thing was I will stick with that the Clippers didn't necessarily do anything horribly wrong. I still believe that it just didn't work out. Like, I will say they took a shot. They went, let's get Kawhi, let's get Paul George, let's make this happen. Those guys are both on the same timelines too. You get Shea, he's not really in the same timeline as Kawhi. They're vastly different years apart. But regardless, yes, that didn't work out because you'd rather have him than Paul George. I will say though, they took their shot. I just think it just didn't work out. Other teams got much better than you would think. Like, you see the Nets suddenly rise into this power in the East, and then that has a trickled effect where guys want to get traded to the Nets, where suddenly LaMarcus and Blake are signing with the Nets as buyout guys, as Drummond's going to the Lakers. Like, the Clippers didn't get one of those big buyout guys that could have made a difference come the playoffs just because
DeMarcus Cousins.
Yeah, no. Just because other teams, like, maybe if the Nets don't rise as much as they are, maybe the Clippers end up with Aldridge or something like that. So I just think that, they took their shot and it just simply didn't work out that well, and it could really blow up in their face because their future is all given away.
I think one thing that really hurt them also is like they simply, they got Rondo now, but they don't have like that guy that's like a high level creator that makes everybody around them better. Like, I know Kawhi can pass, but he's not like some elite passer. No. Like, Paul George averaged 28 his final season with the Oklahoma City Thunder, right? We were looking at like MVP Paul George. Russell Westbrook had this guy playing phenomenal basketball. As much hate as Russ gets, like, I don't know, man. It's hard to predict like a decline like that, 28 points to 21.5.
Yeah. I think they made multiple mistakes along the way. And I think it's kind of like you already gave Paul George all this leverage. And you're right. In a sense, Korzemba, you're right. Because they gave Paul George all this leverage because they traded their entire future away for him and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And if they didn't do that, Kawhi Leonard wouldn't have come. And now they're pretty much handicapped for the future. And if they didn't make this trade, then they probably wouldn't have been relevant to begin with. At the same, and furthermore,
I would say if Kawhi leaves, I would rather have never made that trade possibly. Like, this could come down to a situation where you possibly rather never got Kawhi Leonard or Paul George on your team, honestly. Because what happens if Kawhi leaves right now? How many of their picks are when do they have their picks? How many of their picks are out there right now?
2026.
Okay, and then you have Paul George as your best player, and no one wants to go sign with the Clippers as Paul George.
They'll trade Paul George. They'll trade Paul George.
Yeah,
they're not going to try to contend.
That's true, but then also,
Wow.
Yeah.
it's just the fact that you don't have any of your picks just kills your rebuild so much because you just can't tank. Like, you just can't be like,
Yeah.
okay, we're
I
taking
can
this
see them
season
getting
off.
like 4. I can see them getting like 4 picks back for PG though. Maybe 3.
They don't
If the Bulls
have-
are giving up 2 for Vucevic, then Paul George is an easy 4.
They don't have a pick.
Yeah, but those picks are going to be in the 20s.
Yeah,
That is
they,
true.
they don't have a first round pick until
One might not be, but
2027.
hopefully the other ones.
On top of all this, you're hearing a rumor from one of my favorite sources personally, and that source is quote unquote an NBA agent that told the NBA Analysis Network. So very reputable source here, guys.
Love that guy.
His name is Paul
Los
Pierce.
Angeles. So, Los Angeles Clippers superstar Kawhi Leonard could have interest in parentheses in teaming up with Bam Adebayo and Jimmy Butler because Victor Oladipo, screw you, we don't really care about you. And the quote goes like this: Kawhi could very well listen to pitches from other teams. You don't say. Which is according to the agent. That is something that he is considering. If that does end up being the case, he would be intrigued at the possibility of joining the Miami Heat. Joining forces with Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo is something that he would absolutely have interest in. What do you guys think of
I love
this?
the Miami Heat, but like I'm tired, bro. Like they're linked to everybody. Like I love Miami, like it's like my favorite city, but I'm tired, man. They're like the new Celtics. Like, oh my God, we're getting this guy, that guy, this guy.
I mean, so
And
far
we
they
get
have.
Victor Oladipo.
They have.
I mean,
They said
have
they
they
got
really?
him. Yeah, they got
No,
him.
they got Oladipo.
Honestly,
Yeah.
Heat fans became the Laker fans where they have a jersey swap for everyone ready to go. You know, like when you see like a tweet,
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah,
Kawhi.
they do.
It's like Kawhi's interested. Boom, Kawhi in that jersey already with Bam. Like, and it's like incredible. And it's like, oh,
Hey, look.
thanks for the thumbnail if it ever happens.
I don't doubt that there are players that want to go to Miami and like Miami's a desirable destination. Like I understand all that, but like at some point, like we gotta relax. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, honestly, Kawhi. You know what? I'm changing my mind. Kawhi to the Bulls. All right, let's think of this. The Heat. They already had their championships in the last 15 years. All right, the Lakers. They've been doing their thing. Whatever. Clippers. They're cursed forever. They're just. There's no hope for them. Chicago Bulls. We need our next star shooting guard / small forward. He needs to return.
What about
you know what, Coop?
About
You know
Levine? What did you say about Levine?
You know what, Coop? I'm gonna call you out. You said that I wanted to waste Zach LaVine's prime. So you know what? If you don't want to waste Zach LaVine's prime, you want Kawhi on the Bulls.
No, I want Zach LaVine to go somewhere else.
Zach
I want
LaVine's not
LaVine to
going
go to,
anywhere. All right.
Could you imagine Zach and Zion just for a second? Double Z's. Could you
Bro,
imagine Zach and
I
Zion?
know, right? Let's get him in Chicago.
No, it's like no chance of that happening. Yo, we gotta
Dude,
get like a
we've
soundboard
got
where
Lowry.
we can mute
We
people.
have Lowry marketing. We have him on a sign and trade for Zion.
Lowry
Williamson back.
marketing.
Right
Oh
back.
snap!
Right
I forgot
back.
y'all got Lowry.
We
My
got
bad.
Lowry.
My bad. I forgot. Y'all got Lowry.
He's
Oh,
recently been benched by his own team. Thaddeus Young
bro,
is now
for what?
starting.
Lowry and Vucevic. What are we thinking, man? What are we thinking with?
Dude,
this?
there was no
Lowry
thought in
and
that.
Vucevic?
That you know what? It really hurts me. It hurts me because Lowry
I cheer for
marketing.
Chicago, too.
I love Lowry. I've loved him.
He's a good player.
As soon as
He's a good player.
yeah, he's pretty good. But the problem is that like he hasn't shown enough improvement at all. And when he was a rookie though, and like getting into that second season, I was like, dude, we've got the next 7-footer that's draining threes. This guy's gonna be a 25 point per game scorer, which wasn't crazy to think. He was averaging like 17, 18 as a rookie, but it just hasn't happened. Him and Vooch are not that you can't. There's no defense being
I
played
think
there.
it's one of those things. Yeah, I think it's one of
Now
those
Thaddeus
things
Young
where
starts
it's like
again.
I think he needs a new situation, honestly, to be honest with you. Like, look,
Yeah, I agree.
Chicago is great.
He doesn't
but,
fit.
You like Billy Donovan?
I think we might have talked about this on the mock pod that you guys will never see at home. But no, I think when I agree with what I said at the time. which is that Jim Boylan was such a bad coach that it's hard to just, it's only like the first season really, like post Boylan. So like everything is good. Like it's like, okay, maybe he did this, maybe this isn't the best, but it does seem like Billy's at least learning from his mistakes, or like the mistakes of the rosters were going on. Like we benched Wendell, we benched Kobe at one point, and that's when we started. We have Tomas starting, and we've got Thad starting. I like our team right now. I think we're gonna end up in the playoffs. So there's not much more I could ask for the Bulls, because it feels like, I know it hasn't been that long, but it feels like it's been horrible the last few seasons. I just want to be in the playoffs.
So I have a question. Let's say through some luck, okay, one of your teams, which, the Pelicans and the Bulls are the equivalent to basketball garbage. We could all agree about that. One of them ended up in the top 3 of the NBA draft.
We produced the greatest player of all time.
Bro, I mean,
he's
currently,
got a point.
Currently,
we produced the second greatest point guard of all time. What are we talking about right now?
I mean, and you guys also pretty much gave the Lakers a championship by trading us Anthony Davis. So thank you. But let's say tomorrow, I mean, in a couple of months from now, when the NBA draft lottery is announced, the Chicago Bulls and the New Orleans Pelicans somehow end up with the second and the third pick in the NBA draft. Right?
We're gonna be in the playoffs.
You guys
we don't even own our.
I'll tell you right now, 2 years from now, the Pelicans are going to be way better. The Pelicans will be better than the Lakers in 2 years. All those picks, straight cash, homie. We're going to the bank with those. LeBron can only carry you guys for so long. And I think he's leaving LA to team up with Bronny to keep it a stack with you. So I'm not even worried about those picks becoming cash.
I mean, I'm just saying for this year, okay, let's say the scenario is you guys end up with top 3 picks. You guys just saw what Jalen Suggs was able to do in the NCAA tournament. Would you use one of your picks, either one of you, if you're the Bulls or if you're the Pelicans, would you use a top 3 pick on Jalen Suggs?
Of course. What type of question is that? He's freaking Jalen Suggs, bro. He's amazing.
I mean,
I'm
going to read the top 5 of the potential NBA mock draft for you guys that I'm reading on NBADraft.net currently. Number 1, Minnesota takes Cade Cunningham, which I don't think they're going to get the number 1 pick again. Number 2, Detroit takes Evan Mobley, power forward / center out of USC. Number 3, the Rockets take Jalen Suggs, a point guard. You guys saw what he did from Gonzaga. I'm from UCLA, so he broke my heart. Number 4, the Magic take Jalen Green out of the G League. And number 5, the Wizards take Jonathan Kuminga, also out of the G League. Do you think Jalen Suggs is at least worth making it into the top 5 of this year's NBA draft?
Sure.
I think easily. Yeah.
Yeah, but also I'm interested to see what the 2 G League guys do, because I would like to say, I mean, the NBA tried this year to have a G League with, 2 guys that were top 5 prospects, and I feel like it did not get nearly the media attention they hoped for, right? I mean, they were on the same team. I saw they were the last seed in the G League tournament when that happened, and they lost. So it's kind of, to me, it's kind of weird, because it's like they're playing in the G League, Jalen Green and Kuminga, but they might as well have played overseas. It's like one of those situations where you're evaluating prospects, and it's like, okay, well, we saw this guy in college for 24 games, but we saw this guy against G League Town, and it just makes things a little messy, I guess. It makes it harder for talent evaluators. But I like Jalen Suggs. Don't get me wrong at all. I'm not at all saying, I'm not even putting an ounce towards the hate train here. I'm just saying that sometimes especially when it comes to the NCAA tournament, and especially when it comes to guys making runs, sure, has it helped someone like a Kemba Walker, who was not going to be drafted where he was, launch into the scene, and you got a guy like Kemba and he becomes a better draft pick and he becomes an all-star. Yeah, sure. But for every Kemba, I'd say from what I've seen, it's about 80% of the time someone gets overhyped because of the NCAA tournament, and then they end up, disappointing or failing to meet expectations because they're in that national eye, because they're that guy that's that's a March Madness star. So it's a little dangerous, but I mean, again, I think Jalen Suggs is definitely, he's a different story because Gonzaga was undefeated all year. He was a star all year for them. He fit in great with a team that was already had a ton of talent. So I think he'll be great, but
I think the G League stuff is stupid. I think
it's dumb. I think at that point it's just, because I think, what I think the G League stuff is? This is my bold prediction on this one. Maybe not so bold. I think what the G League stuff though is, I think it's the NBA taking like a small step and not immediately getting rid of the one and done rule, but this is their like first step towards it. I think they're like, okay, let's let these guys get paid. And then they're going to be like, okay, well, if they're already getting paid in the G League, why wouldn't we just put them in the NBA? Which I myself agree. Why would you make them have to go play in the G League? Why can't they just play in the NBA at that point?
Because I could provide a fantastic argument to that. If you take a look at all the young players in the NBA so far, a lot of them have a ton of injury risk. You look at players like Marvin Bagley, for example, Trae Young in the earlier part of his career. Here, let me pull up a list, but these players don't necessarily have NBA ready bodies because they're coming into the NBA at the age of 19 to 20. So what I think the vision for the NBA here wasn't just so the players could get paid, but they have an opportunity to go up against NBA G League talent, which could also show where these G League players stand in terms of being compared to a up-and-coming NBA prospect. And at the same time, they could work on their game, become more NBA ready, and then hopefully, maybe at the age of 2021, enter the NBA, kind of like a farm system.
That doesn't make sense to me, though. That's never been a problem. That was never a problem with high school athletes.
Okay, look.
It was never a problem that a high school athlete that they were getting like abnormally injured. The only real problem was that there was
Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid,
Ben Simmons
Lonnie
played
Walker.
in college. I'm talking about guys that jumped right to the league.
When they get into the league dealing with injuries.
But your argument makes literally no sense if you're talking about guys that played in college.
Why does it make no sense?
You're talking about guys that played in college.
Yeah, the NBA. I'm talking about a player that enters the NBA and is significantly more susceptible to injury risk as a result of entering the NBA too early. You're talking about a 19-year-old.
Yeah, but that's going to happen at any. If that happened to Ben Simmons, who literally looked like he was 24 at the age of 17, like I still don't see your argument here. Like teams are going to draft who they're going to draft. Once they have them on their team, they could, play them. Or
I would rather players with an NBA training staff than a collegiate one. That's
exactly.
I'm not disagreeing with that, but I'm just saying that. I mean, I don't think that was what the NBA was trying to necessarily do. I mean, maybe.
No, I think the reason
put them in
they
a professional
did this
atmosphere, but I don't think it had anything really to do with injuries.
I think the reason they did the one and done stuff is because they were trying to quote unquote protect the players. I think that was the whole narrative surrounding that stuff, which I thought was really dumb. Because, being somebody that's played basketball myself and played at a high level, I've always felt that, like, look, if you're good enough to go from high school to the NBA, you're probably going to be able to play in just about any league you want, even if you fizzle out. Like, you're going to make great money. And you're gonna probably have a successful basketball career, even if you want to just go back to coaching. Schools look at that and they're like, oh, well, you were this phenomenal talent, blah blah blah. We could get you a gig. So I never really agreed with that whole, oh, we're protecting the players from themselves. And I think it's dumb. Why even have players have to go to the G League for a year? Like, just let them go right to the league.
I'm fully on board with just let them go, like let someone make their own choice, honestly. Like, I mean, the NBA, it's like,
and it's interesting because a lot of people feel like Europe is catching up like with the rest of the world. Well, you could go pro in Europe at like 14. You go pro in Europe, right?
Yeah. You look at Luka, 14, 15. You look at all these guys; they all do that. So The thing is, actually, I would say, Mike, I'll take what you were saying in terms of like, okay, injuries, that kind of stuff. That I would say could be a good thing. In terms of the infrastructure part, maybe the NBA puts more money, or you have a new position open up on some teams' rosters with these young guys where they're being like, teaching them different kinds of things that guys from 2003, 2002 weren't getting taught. But I still just believe that these guys, if you have the talent, I think you should be allowed to play in the NBA. I think it's so stupid that you have to go, pretend like you're going to college for a year and, a lot of these guys don't go to classes or whatever. Or even worse, force them to go play overseas. Like, guys have to go play overseas for a year. Who knows what kind of you're talking about coaching and development there? Who knows what's happening there? They're suddenly competing for playing time with 30-year-old grown men who are trying to put, bread on the table for their family. That's just a weird situation. So I just feel like just let them get drafted at this point. And I don't think the rule should have ever changed.
So I want you to picture something, okay? The last big hyped prospect from 2 years ago was Zion Williamson, or last year, LaMelo Ball. And what would you do if you wanted to watch Zion Williamson? You would watch the NCAA. So imagine instead of Zion Williamson going to Duke and then declaring for the NBA draft, immediately after high school, Zion Williamson declares for the NBA draft. Whoever drafts Zion Williamson gets to hold his rights. So the Pelicans draft Zion Williamson a year early, or the year before that, the Phoenix Suns had the number 1 pick. The Suns draft Zion Williamson with the number 1 pick. And instead of just going to college, or instead of going to college, he would play for the G League. And multiple other prospects would be in the G League, and they'd be going up against other G League competition. Why? One, we can completely just move away from how good it is for the player and training and whatnot. It's good for the business of the NBA. Now you have Zion Williamson playing in a league that typically would be ignored. People would tune in to watch Zion play in the G League. People would tune in to watch LaMelo Ball play in the G League. So in terms of a business, it's significantly more beneficial for the NBA to do something like that instead of having, Zion go straight to the NBA and then have the New Orleans Pelicans hold him on a minutes restriction.
This will never happen. The NBA Players Association would never allow this because no player would ever want this. Coop, please back me up here. Who would want to be like, okay, I've got drafted to the NBA, but now I have to go play in the G League for 20 games. You're going to be seeing a lot of guys pulling their hamstrings and being like, oh, sorry, I can't play for 8 games. Like, what? They would not want to be playing G League basketball if they...
No. I agree.
Go to the NBA.
I agree, and I want to backtrack what I said a little bit because I kind of misworded what I said. I said, like, Europe is catching up with the rest of the world, but, like, European basketball is, like, phenomenal. I didn't mean to say it like that. What I wanted to say is, like, it's really interesting that, I feel like a lot of these kids in America, they're getting taken advantage of by like AAU coaches that don't necessarily teach them anything. And AAU is essentially a business now, being somebody that's been through the system and all that. And where you see as in Europe, these kids are going to phenomenal systems, they're becoming pros at young ages, they're getting the fundamentals, they're getting all this extra stuff that, some of these guys aren't necessarily getting in the States.
So let me get this straight, Coop. Whose side are you on in terms of Mike Korzemba and I? Do you agree that it's probably better for the player? Like, Coop, you played professional basketball, right? You played AAU basketball. And
AAU's not pro, but yeah, I played.
Yeah, you know what I mean? You played like legit basketball.
Coop, you were on the league.
Yeah. I was on the league. Hey, they could use me, no cap. They could use me.
So you have an option here, okay? Which sounds more appealing to you? You could either get drafted immediately, like after your senior year of high school, then you play under your contract in the G League for a year.
What?
Maybe
wait, hold on. Year. My whole thing is that there should just
I don't want to go to the G League. I don't want to go to the G League.
Yeah, no one wants to go to G League. And also, my whole thing is not either that. My whole thing is just get rid of these restrictions. Just let them get drafted. Let them go. Yeah. If you can play, you can play.
So that's me. I don't want any restrictions.
Also, I would like to point out that one of the biggest problems was that these guys declare. I think that there are several things that are different right now. One, the culture and the climate around these high school kids so the last draft was 2005. So much has changed in the last 15, 16 years. Okay. I think that we'd be seeing a lot less misses than we were and a lot less second round picks than we were. personally, I think that. But even if that was the case, even if there are still guys that are going undrafted second round picks, we now do have a much better G League infrastructure in place where those guys would be able to end up, and that would be perfectly fine. You know, the best guys, the guys that could go and play on a team right away, they can go do that. They go, you know, Zion gets drafted, he goes and plays. And then, I mean, the minutes restriction was based on a prior injury that you brought up before. But anyway, Zion goes and plays, and then the guys that can't cut it right now, they go, they develop in the G League. So for me, it's the best of both worlds.
Guy. Imagine you're a G League guy trying to make a living, and you got a freaking guard Zion Williamson. Are you kidding me?
That's a chance for you to step up. People are actually watching
I'm
your
not
games
stepping
now.
up against Zion.
Dude, I don't think. I think your whole thing has two major flaws, which is one, no one right now. The G League guys, Green and Kuminga, they only are doing the G League and are interested in it because that's their option. Like, they didn't have an option of, like, you can play in the NBA. If it suddenly became this whole thing where you technically did get drafted into the NBA, but now you have to play in the G League, I think it just creates a whole different mindset where guys are like, why are you telling me what to do? Like, I don't think it'd be good. I also don't think the Players Association would go with it. I can't see them agreeing with it. And two, I don't think it would be as much TV as you think, personally. Like, we already saw two top prospects go through the whole thing. Yeah, I mean, they got basically zero national exposure. And yeah, there would be bigger names, but I just think at the end of the day, people want to see people play in the NBA. I think it would be more beneficial, you know, yeah, like if LeBron was in the G League when he was a 18-year-old, he would have brought in more views to the G League, but what's the point? Just he was bringing in views to the NBA.
You can't compare Jonathan Kuminga and Jalen Green being in the G League to what LaMelo Ball would have done for the G League if he was playing for like 20 games.
But like, what's the point though? I just don't understand. Why are you even trying to hype up the G League? What's the point of getting views for them? Like, literally, LaMelo, if you look at what LaMelo has done right now for the Hornets, like, what is the point of getting someone like LaMelo to just, you know,
not all players are LaMelo. Some players are Lonzo. You know, some players come in with broken jumpers, and some players actually need to work on their game. That's why I'm saying.
That's why the G League's there. If they need to play in the G League, go ahead. But I don't think you.
That's why I don't think
you should tell. I don't think you should be able to tell an NBA player or a player who has the skill to play in the NBA what he can or not, like, can't do. I don't think you should be like, okay, you're restricted to go play in the G League. I think if the general manager of that team thinks like, oh, you need to go play in the G League, that's fine, whatever. But I think if a guy's good enough to play in the NBA, he should be able to play in the NBA.
Mike, that's such a flawed take too, because like Lonzo, like college didn't really do anything for Lonzo's shot. Like, he shot well in college, but he shot well with broken mechanics also. And I'm not sure the G League would have did anything either. It wasn't until he got with the NBA coach, Fred Vinson, you know, where things really started to turn around. So, hey, man.
And you know, at the end of the day, yeah, sure, are there going to be some G League? Like, are they going to have good development coaches in the G League? Yeah, but the best development coaches are going to be in the NBA. So,
yep, it's that hands simple. Down.
I'm sure that if you drafted Zion Williamson with your top pick, you'll send your top conditioning coach to the G League to make sure
above your own team.
Condition in the NBA. Why can't he just condition in the NBA?
They're not gonna just be like.
I mean, you're getting him a year earlier. Instead of going to Duke, he goes to the G League.
Or he just goes to your team. What's the problem? Yeah. Like, literally, there was no problem. Honestly, there was no problem with this. The NBA just freaking, I don't even know what happened. Like, there was just no problem.
I want a girl that views me the way Flight Mike views the G League.
Yeah, I don't get it. Like, why do you love the G League so much? That's my whole thing. I'm like, why are you
do it in baseball? They do it in baseball, and it works out remarkably well.
Baseball is so different. It's such a specialized skill set. That's the problem.
Pro, like, really young.
No, yeah, you can. Mike,
they have to make it through 82 games.
You can go right to the MLB. It's just, wait, what Mike is saying is arguing against himself. because in the MLB you are able to go right from high school to the majors right away if you were good enough.
No, you're not.
Yes,
that's
you are.
not how it works
Yes, you
at
are.
all.
You
get drafted and then you go through a farm system and then you go to the MLB.
You're allowed to go to the MLB. You're allowed to go there. It's just you're not good enough, so they put you into a lower level system and work on your skills, and then you get good enough, and then you play in the majors. That is a fact.
Majors. Here we go.
I know I'm right. We don't need to Google this.
Coop, who's right? Mike or Mike?
Yeah. No, I think he's right. Apparently, there's only been one guy that's done it. Xavier Nady is the only non-pitcher to go directly to the MLB since John. Oh man, I'm gonna butcher his name. Olud in 1989. So
my proposal is more based on the things that I feel like a lot of you guys are sleeping on, and it's the fact that you're taking these kids and telling them, hey, instead of playing from like September sporadically, maybe for like, I don't know, 35 games, yeah, your 19-year-old or 20-year-old body has to now make it through a grueling 82 game season where the competition's significantly steeper.
That's just not true. I mean, I don't know if you're gonna be playing these guys these insane minutes regardless.
Also, what's 1 year do? Eventually they have to make that leap. Like it's just gonna be the same thing. Like you either go to college and you play 30 games, you either go high school to college where you play 30 games or 30 to 40 games and then go to the NBA, or you just go high school to NBA. Regardless, same difference. Both times guys have to take a vast leap in the amount of games they're playing. Like that's like, if anything, we see guys like Greg Oden. He got hurt because he had to make that leap. He spent a year in college, still got hurt.
Honestly, the NBA, that's like a different argument. You could argue there's too many games, which I actually think there might be.
I agree.
That's like a whole nother argument. Yeah, I wouldn't mind them cutting down some, having more games, hold some weight.
I agree with that as well. That I would agree with more with that. I mean, I don't think we'll ever see that. Also, probably because of just the revenue.
I don't know, man. Silver's kind of been wilding. Like he's definitely like been moving some stuff
you
around.
have to.
Like if you're the 10th seed, you could now get in the playoffs. Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, but that's stuff that doesn't affect the money that's going into an owner's pocket. If you're telling this guy, hey,
but also, that is true.
Like if you take out away 10 games, that's 5 home games every owner now misses out.
Yeah, but maybe he would take away some games. I mean, he'd probably like add a tournament or something.
I would love to see. What do you guys think about the midseason tournament that like has been proposed? I had my one friend, he suggested that to have a midseason tournament and the prize for it would be a draft pick somewhere maybe around pick number like 40. He said if you're team 21 through 30 in the standings, you would get like he said something crazy, like the 14th pick. So he said standings would play into it. And then if you were a team 11 through 20, you would get the 40th pick, and then like 1 through 10 would get the 60th pick.
Bro,
but I would be interested
as
in a
Pelicans
midseason tournament.
I'd love that as a Pelicans fan.
I think it'd be cool.
Give us something we can win.
I think it'd be cool if you have to, of course, incentivize it. But if you what do you think like the right prize would be pick wise? Because you can't go too far. That's the problem. But if you give out a pick that's like number 31, like pick number 31. Like basically an extra first round pick, like end of first round pick, like that pick becomes valuable come trade deadline. If it's instantly tradable, boom, you could trade that. That would make that tournament exciting.
I think a tournament between the 4 worst teams in the NBA potentially for like the number 1 pick or would potentially be interesting, but it is interesting. I can't come up with any good incentives. That's off the top of my head.
I think a pick would be interesting. I don't know what other incentive you could really give. I guess obviously money. You could just have the players make more money.
It would, if they could figure out a way to do that though, where like you get all the worst teams in the NBA and the prize is playing for the number 1 overall pick, which this is just me living in a fantasy world. I don't think it sounds tangible at all, but that would completely shake up the way things are done in the NBA. Tanking teams no longer, tanking teams can't fully tank anymore because you could tank, but you want to be good enough to win the number 1 pick in the tournament.
Think of the mindset though of like, okay, here's the problem is that you have to think of the mindset. There'd be so much politics going on in the players' own heads. Like, for instance, let's say you're like a 22-year-old small forward and you just average like 12 points a game, okay? And you're good, you're promising. You're in your second or third season, and the number one pick is a small forward, you know? And so you're now playing for like, oh, if I win, like if our team wins, we get that guy that's taking my position, and now I don't know what's going on with me. Or if you do that with a point guard or something, or, you know, if you think of what is the motivation for a guy who's like, you know, 33 years old and he's just a veteran, like, I don't know. The games would be, in an ideal world, that would be really cool, but it'd be interesting to see guys' motivations for playing and how much they're really going to give for bonus games.
Yeah, again, it is just a absolute fantasy of mine.
Maybe attach a cash prize at the end of that. Everyone gets an extra mil. Imagine that. You get first pick. Every player gets, I mean, maybe $1 million's too much, but
I mean, they could probably like revenue share, like give a percentage of the
I'm sure there's some cash
received.
amount that would be worth it. Yeah. All right. So, you know, we got a little heated there. All right. We got a little anger. I liked it though. Guys in the comments, I hope you guys like that energy. I want to end this podcast with a story that I didn't get really cut off. We got sidetracked, but I had a question in my head during the last podcast that I wanted to ask. And I really want to hear Mike, the Flight Mike. I want to hear what was it like, flight versus flight, 1v1 basketball. I want to know the behind the scenes. I want to know how that went down. What was it like?
So, oh man, this story is like months in the making. So this is how it started. About a year ago, when my YouTube channel, well, a little bit, we're in March of 2021. So I'd say in October of 2019, when my channel finally was starting to take off, a Instagrammer by the name of, an Instagrammer by the name of Ryan, who was an NBA trainer, the guy that trains Flight, reached out to me and said, hey, I'm very interested in you and I collaborating somehow, some way. If you see a way for us to do it, let me know. And for me, my rule with collaborations is like, I'm always down to collab. It just has to make sense, you know? So at the time, October of 2019, didn't make sense, but we followed each other. And, to this day, we still have a good relationship with each other. So, and here, I'm trying to pull up his Instagram here. Yeah, R2B Ball. A Instagrammer by the name of R2B Ball reaches out to me and tells me that he wants to collaborate with me. And I just told him it didn't make sense for the time being because I didn't do any IRL stuff. I was mainly doing what I do now, off camera, like quick analysis videos on the NBA. So I see like in February of 2020, or like in like May of 2020, sorry, I reach out to him and I'm like, yo, like, Flight and I go back, and I wanted to do like an analysis video on just Flight's game. And if you wanted to like be featured in the video, give your tidbits, give your tips on it, we could do that.
Wait, so what kind of, you were going to do an analysis video? What do you mean by that?
Yeah.
Also, we're going to get into you and Flight going back late in a different pod. But
oh yeah, definitely. Coop's included in that, by the way. Flight, Coop,
yeah,
and
he actually met Flight through me.
Yeah, I met Flight through Coop. Yeah. I wanted to do an analysis video of him originally.
Wait, what do you mean by that?
The reason why is just like kind of like what I do currently. Like just analyze his 1v1s, analyze the shots he takes, analyze how he could get better, stuff like that. Which is ironic.
I know Low ended up doing that.
Yeah, Low ended up doing that, like way after. But before I reached out to him about it, reached out to R2B Ball about it. So eventually he responds to me and says, actually, I'm training Flight for June. And I'm like, oh, well, this changes things. Where do you guys train? He's like, at San Diego. I'm like, okay, for sure. Well, does he have any opponents coming up? Because June is like right around the corner, and this is when COVID was starting to hit. So the pandemic hits, and I ask him, I'm like, yo, do you think Flight would want to face me in a 1v1? I think we're at like the same skill level. This is just some context here. I have not been in the gym for 3 months at this point. I haven't touched a basketball in 7 months at this point because of the restrictions of COVID. So I didn't like how I looked. I didn't think I was ready at all. But I, at the same time, understand that in terms of like high entertainment value, you get Flight and I on a basketball court and like, we're going to do something great. So he responds and says, look, just reach out to him. And if he's down, then he's down. So Flight follows me from like our time way back. And I reach out to him and I'm like, yo, do you have any opponent for June? I'm pretty much the same skill level as you. I would not be shocked if you kick my ass because you've been training. I have not been training. This is a good matchup for you if you want to go 1v1. And he pretty much confirms that he has no opponents for June. And he needs someone because this dude has been saying for the past like 2-3 months, yo, come June, I'm going to be ready. Just you guys wait. I'm going to be ready to I'm going to be like a basketball legend in June. So I pull up to, so that weekend, I was so out of shape. Like, dude, I know in the video, like some people say, hey, Mike looks built. Hey, Mike lifts. I was insanely out of shape. There was no treadmill. Like my running routine was significantly diminished. Like it was just not a good time for me to do any type of basketball activity at all whatsoever. So I go there, and the day before I meet up with the trainer literally teaches me like one move and like tells me every single thing that's wrong with my game and pretty much tells me that I'm like a gigantic lost cause. You know, like everything about like my game is horrific. And if I wanted with months and months and months of work, he would happily train me. But he told me I had a lot of work to do. And I'm like, okay, who do you think would win in a 1v1 versus Flight? And he says he would. I'm like, okay, why? He said, I've been training him for about a month to 2 months. So he has a good chance against you. So that night, you know, I'm in San Diego, you know, I'm drinking with some buddies. So that night didn't really sleep very well. Next morning I wake up and I'm nervous because I'm his first opponent in June. So I get there, I meet Flight, you know, I meet everyone there, and we start the 1v1. Now, what people are accusing me of, which completely blows my mind, is they think Flight and I like sat back and like planned some crazy maneuver for him to like cross me over. That couldn't be further than the truth.
Yeah,
I come in and I ask
the video up. Oh my god. Wait, hold on. Play the clip. Okay, now that you guys enjoyed that.
So the first thing I ask Flight before we play is, dude, like, how's your vert? Are you going to dunk on me? He's like, bro, I can't dunk on you. Like, we sat back, we like caught up a little bit. First of all, like, dude's an awesome guy. Really nice guy, really humble dude. Really, really awesome guy. We play 1v1. By the time we get to like our third point of the game, I am gassed out of my mind. Man, the worst part is my brother's there recording me, you know, and like this is when I'm really starting to make YouTube a little bit more legitimate for myself. And he's like looking at me, he's like, "Come on, man." And I'm like, "Don't say 'come on, man' to me, bro." Like, so we face each other in the 1v1. The guy, if you compare this 1v1 compared to all of his other 1v1s, the dude just came out with like a fire in his eyes, you know, like he hit a step back jumper on me. Well, contested for crying out loud.
Can I make a statement? I'm watching this 1v1.
Yeah, make a statement.
I would so easily drop both of you guys. So easily. It wouldn't even be close. Oh my God. I would wager any amount of money.
Oh my god.
Either flight.
Well-
Flight, if you're watching this right now, let's set it up. I'll fly anywhere. Oh
So,
my
you
god.
play-
I'm watching Flight cross you up. You're on the ground, and him pull up an air ball. Air ball. Talk about ruining a clip, but he still instant replayed it.
Yeah, I know. Like, it was. I kept
Bro, that was on
saying,
Sports
like,
Center.
I was not prepared to play that game.
What? Was
But
that a joke?
what? Me?
He just said it was on
No,
Sports
I
Center.
was-
Was that a joke? Am I?
It was on
Yeah.
Sports Center.
No,
yeah,
it
we made it
wasn't.
to. Yeah, it was on
Yes, it
Sports
was,
Center.
Bro, it was on Sports
You were
Center.
on Sports Center on the ground?
Yes.
No.
My parents told me they were so proud of me. By the way, they're
What?
like, "Oh my
That's-
god, you made it!"
That's
Yeah,
so
like
great.
the,
That's-
like my
that's
like
hilarious.
like they were so proud. They're like, "Oh my god, you made it to Sports Center." I'm like, "Yeah!" Like,
Oh my god.
it's like it's not like how I imagined it, but
That's pretty bittersweet.
How
Um,
did you
Hilarious.
imagine it? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know, how did you imagine?
Yeah, wait,
making
that's
it to
not-
Sports
yeah,
Center?
that-
you know, maybe like
Yeah.
potentially like commentating one of the games one
you
day or
commentate.
something like that. You know, like not me getting my ankles broken, but again, like I
Oh
want
my
to
God.
emphasize this over and if this was any other
Why
time,
was this on
you know, like
Sports
maybe
Center?
four. What? Because it was a moment of
Bro,
basketball
they're a
greatness.
meme account now. They're like
Wait, but
full of
wait, they
memes.
wait,
Have you
what
not
was-
been following Sports Center?
No.
Yeah, they post like a lot of memes and stuff.
Oh.
This was a moment
This
of
was like the. Yeah, go ahead.
this was an epic moment in basketball history. I don't blame them. So like the video for something. So we finished the game. You know, Flight and I catch up. We hang out a little bit after the game,
What was the final score?
and I forget, but I think I only got one basket up. Like
I
again,
saw you made it.
I
You
was
made it 3.
really out of shape.
That game had to take like an hour.
What, that game?
Yeah.
It did-
How long
It
did
seemed like an
you
hour.
guys
I
are
got
throwing up bricks. I'm watching this.
Okay.
So a lot of people also bring up what I was wearing. So right before we go in, the plan was to go in with like a LeBron James jersey, you know, just to like kind of mess with him. There was like a Big Five next to the hoop house, and all they had were Curry jerseys. So I'm like, okay, I'm just going to dress up like a level 1 my player, you know, just so people could remember my face pretty much. And in that aspect, it kind of worked. Although people recognize me as the guy that got crossed by Flight, to this day, like at least people understand what I look like. And that was like the first time I made my appearance known in like a vlog or whatnot. After the game, in terms of like the business aspect of it, Flight let me post it first. And then both of us made it into trending. I have a screenshot of it where number 1 is ankle breaking 1v1 versus the Flight Mike. So I found YouTube's algorithm to be very interesting in that regard as well. I asked him if he wanted to rematch. And like I said, man, like if a collab makes sense, you know, for both parties, they're going to take part of it. So far, when I reached out to him in regards to like a rematch, he hasn't responded, but he's responded to me for other instances. So I just assumed it didn't make sense for him.
Okay. Well, I mean that's cool, man. You know what? To me, this brings up 2 reactions. 3. 1, guys, comment down below anything you want to know more about this. Comment down below if you want any questions we're not asking or just anything in general. 2, I'll say what was the reaction social media comment wise? Like, were you getting tweets? Were you getting stuff like that? What were people saying to you?
People were coming over. I was live streaming on Twitch at the time, and people were coming over saying, "Wow, you got crossed. You seem like a cool dude though." And for the most part, people like perceived me in a fairly positive light. Mainly because I handled the L with like class and grace. And
Yeah.
I honestly knew that this was a potential outcome, but I also don't back down from potentially uncomfortable situations. And I'm a huge believer that if you know how to handle the spotlight properly, then it could be a positive experience for yourself. So
I
for the
definitely
most
give
part-
you credit for being his first opponent. You know, yeah, you were number 1 trending. That's crazy. You got crossed. He got his freaking clickbait on that.
Yeah, it was a dope experience. It was an awesome experience. Every time I reflect upon it, I have a smile on my face, and yeah, I'm open to other 1v1s. If I have any challengers, bring it on.
I can't wait. I cannot wait until this podcast rises to a level where we could hype this up, and I will just have a crowd watching as
Coop has to play with one hand tied behind his head.
Coop, I don't know. I feel like your level
I'll
might
play
be
y'all
high.
2 versus 1.
Oh my God, we'll play you 2v1 easy.
No, you won't.
What is this statement? 2v1, Mike.
No, you won't.
Mike.
I would put cash
Mike,
down.
literally just all you have to do, just practice layups. That's all you have to do. Just under the basket, catch and lay it in. And I will.
You're asking a lot.
I will make sure my jumper's already nice. It always is. I'll just make sure I can cash every. He'll have to guard one of us. Boom. And you know what? You step out to guard.
Have you seen Mike take a layup?
You know what? I'm not ripping Mike. I'm not here to rip Mike. This is my teammate apparently now in 2v1.
I asked the question. It sounds like you're ripping him. To me, if you can't even say you've seen him take a layup.
I just watched the game. It wasn't great. It wasn't. I can't wait to play. I'm all for the content. I mean, if you look at me, you know what, guys? I will tell the story next time because we gotta save a little juice for some further podcast. But I will tell the story about me playing against Caitlin. I kind of forget her last name, but I'll tell the story where I played against Michigan's all-time leading scorer for girls basketball. She has over 3,000 points scored. I took an L. But I can explain. I can explain. All right, guys. Well, thank you for watching episode 2 of the Lace Up Podcast. And I want to say, guys, thank you for being so supportive in the comments. A lot of you guys have just been awesome, saying you're so excited for the pod, and we are too. We are so excited to keep growing, to keep grinding, to push. We are all in here. As you can see, I'm in Boston right now. I'm recording the podcast anyway because this is top priority. So what do you guys think about the reception from episode 1?
Honestly, I love it. I'm excited for, judging based off of that being our pilot episode and knowing we're only going to get better and we're going to only do crazier and crazier stuff in the pods and the plans that we have. I am exhilarated by this entire venture that we have.
Yep. Same. Everybody's saying that, they like the pod. I like that. Keep that up.
Yeah. They said that people have been saying they like us as a 3, which I agree with. I think, this is great dynamic and cannot wait to keep going. And guys, thank you so much for your support, honestly. With that in mind, make sure to like this video. Make sure to subscribe to the Lace Up Podcast. And also, we are on Apple and Spotify. If you guys can give us a review, listen on Apple, subscribe there. 5-star review would be awesome. Have an awesome day, guys. Cue the music.